right before I met the iguana.
Yeah, you use the iguana in your photo, right? Sitting right on top of your head.
Iguana changed my entire business.
Well, hey, we're going to find out more about how the iguana changed.
Totally a different story, but it really changed my life. It actually was pretty cool.
Well, today we are super excited about our guest today. His name is Tony Ray Baker. Not only is Tony Ray a top producing agent out of Tucson, Arizona with 25 years experience, but he's also super into the marketing and advertising part of being a real estate agent, which I know a lot of our agents can struggle with. So we're going to dig in with Tony today a little bit about how he built a successful business, how he finds balance between work and life, and then also get into the more nerdier side. Tony Ray's words himself, not mine. He considers himself a bit of a nerd, building websites for driving leads for his business. So really excited to dig into that. Thanks for being on the podcast today.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, Tony, it's great to have you. And, getting used to calling you Tony Ray is going to be hard for me. I kept calling him Tony in my mind. It's been Tony. And now I just figured out he goes by Tony Ray. So I'm sure there's a story there. But I think it's really interesting. You've made it 25 years in the business, you were telling us. This is your anniversary year. And everybody's heard the statistics. 87% of real estate agents fail within 5 years. And of that 87% that fail, actually 90% of that 87% fail within 2 years. And I had a webinar the other day I shared with an office of agents. I said, what I think is even worse than that is that the average agent makes less than $42,000 a year across the country. And so I think you have these two folds of where a lot of people are failing. So it's interesting, I want to get into picking your brain. How have you lasted 25 years? What are the things that you're doing that are different? And then also, you have that category of agents that they are still in the business, but they're almost trapped. It's like they're not living this life of freedom that they really want to live. And Josh talks about work-life balance, which is that $1 million question that we're all trying to and struggling to figure out. How do you have work-life balance? What does that even look like? I have my personal opinions on work-life balance that maybe we'll get into. But so I'm really interested to hear your journey. If you could introduce yourself to the audience, Tony Ray, and just share your story, how you got into real estate, what's led you up to today, and then let's get into some of the details of how you've made it 25 years.
Sure. I was going to college, a lot of college. I was fumbling through class after class. I loved school. I always did. I was an honor student, and I was pursuing psychology and law, and I was pursuing architecture and design. And about 7 years into it with no degree, my mom said, why don't you do real estate? And I thought she had lost her mind. And so we left each other that night. And about 2 days later, it dawned on me that she might be right. And so I pursued real estate school, and it involved all the components of the things that I was searching in college. It had everything I wanted. And so I fell in love with the idea of helping people buy and sell houses. And the very first year in real estate, I remember the very first day I got in the office. I was very excited. I passed my test, and the broker said yes, they would take me in under their wing. And I thought that was awesome. And not knowing anything, they gave me a cubicle, and I sat down, and I remember my heart sunk to the bottom, where the furthest depth of awful it could go, when I realized I had no idea what I was doing. And I went from super high to super low, which is really easy to do in this business. And the broker said, well, we're going to door knock, and we're going to cold call, and here's a Kohl's directory. Mind you, we didn't have fax machines or pagers or cell phones. We had a little runner that gave us listings from the MLS, and we had to all fight over them.
No comment there, man. Days? No comment there. No.
Remember those days? And I was one of the youngest realtors in town, if not the youngest realtor, so nobody would take me seriously. And they dropped us off in a van in the middle of a neighborhood and said, go knock on doors until someone says they'll list their house. And I remember a guy with a shotgun chased me down the street.
No way.
Yeah, and I got back in the van, and I said, that's it, we're done. I hate this business. I hate everything about it. I don't want anything to do with it. It's not what I thought. And so I had to do a little soul searching, and my broker said, well, you haven't sold a house, and you're not willing to do anything that we're asking you to do, so you're probably not going to make it. And so you're probably one of those statistics. And I said, no, I've changed my mind. I'm not going to make it your way. I'm going to make it my way. I'm going to be like a lawyer or a doctor or anybody else. Clients will come to me and we will work together on our schedule that's beneficial to both of us. And we will have that kind of reverence for each other that I will have a happy life. And my broker was really sweet. And she said, okay. She said, all I ask is this, go meet this guy named Joe Stump. And so that's where I went. And I went to my first main event with by referral only. And it was a hit like that for me. I knew right away that was my business model. And so Joe said to me in a conversation, he said, I want you to sit down and design the life you want. And then we're going to fit the real estate part of it into that life.
That's
and I
awesome.
said, well, I want 6 vacations every year. I want to travel all around the world. I don't want to work on Sundays. I want Monday through Friday, pretty much 9 to 5. And Joe said, then let's make that happen. And so Joe opened my eyes to the fact that if I planned what I wanted, I could make business fit in there, because your brain starts working on how to make systems and how to do things to become efficient and create the world you want. And so I started with that in my second year of real estate. I started that process. And I think that's the golden ticket that we're all missing. And I see it and I feel for these agents that are, there's a bunch of them that are very focused on that number. I got to sell 10 million, but they're willing to sell their souls to sell $10 million. And they're still not at the end of the day happy. They're doing volume, but they're not making great profit. They're buying leads or doing whatever they have to. They're working their buns off trying to get through the day. And they don't have that kind of respect, and they can't take a day off. And that's just not that life. I just did not want that. So I started working on how is that going to look for me. And ironically, the first challenge I had from my business coach at the time was, you're going to take a vacation every month for this next year, and we're going to see how things go. So I actually scheduled a vacation every month, and my business production quadrupled that year.
I like that coaching style. That's awesome.
Isn't that crazy, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I had to become super efficient on how I was going to handle those clients and still get that vacation every month. And have you ever realized right before you go on vacation, you are super efficient.
Yeah, right.
You knock out lists and lists of things. You just can't believe how much stuff you get done right before vacation. And by the time you're ready to leave on vacation, you're probably feeling like you're on top of the world because you just kicked out 3 days of work in 12 hours. It's amazing.
So do you have other people in your team then that help clients while you're out, or how does that work?
I do now. So when I go on vacation, we have our backups, which we have a certain group of realtors at our office that will call and see who's available and ones we trust, but they're not on my team.
Gotcha.
Yeah. My partner and I are that's it. There's 2 of us. And if we're traveling together. So typically, unless I'm at a board meeting or something in another city, we're out on vacation.
Yeah.
We do have a team of people that work for us. Like I have an assistant that's been with me for 24 years. And we have a audio guy who makes videos, and he loves photography. And then I've got a guy who jumped in and started after my nerd life of building my own websites. He's taken them over for me. Nice. So I don't do that anymore. Some of it. But so I've got those guys. And then I just brought in a new person part-time to start helping me with really focusing back in on our clientele and making sure they're really taken care of in every aspect.
So you talk about this by referral only. So you look at 2 powerful things I think in there is, think of the life you want, the life, you want to live, and then fit your, real estate business. And that applies to all areas of life. I think, what is it? Life by design. I think it's Tom Ferry's thing is life by design. I love that concept of designing your life. You looked at this by referral only and said, that fits me. That's the business model I'm after. What does that look like in execution? So, your second year in, how does that look like? So if I'm an agent listening to this and I'm like, man, I love that. Taking, a vacation every month. I want to live by referral. I want to live the good life. What does it play out in execution from a strategy standpoint for your marketing and for how you treat clients?
I think what happens is when you really get settled with this is what I am going to do, your brain starts working on how to make it happen. Your brain's super smart. It listens to what you say, whether it's subconsciously or consciously. Your brain is listening. So if you keep telling yourself that you're fat, for example, I am fat, every time you walk by a mirror, you're probably going to be fat because your brain's going to figure out a way to help you get there. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the same thing in positive way, that when you say, this is the life I'm going to create, I want to take care of clients on a concierge level that they will refer everyone to me. Your brain starts thinking, how do I do that? Now, by referral only has a methodology that is intense. I mean, they have everything down. Language, how you speak to people, what you're thinking about, systems to help really start thinking, how do I go the extra mile for each client? What does that look like? And so I have to give them full credit, because as a brand new agent back then, I had them to follow those. Joe was creating systems so fast, it wasn't even funny back then. He was on fire building this company, and so I have to give it all to them. The cool thing is that as you work with clients, if you're thinking about how to give them concierge service, what happens naturally is they want to refer their friends to you because they want them to have that same experience when buying or selling a home. And so I built my first 10 years, well, maybe it might not have been 10, but the first years of my business, I did nothing but 95% referral business.
Wow.
I had nothing else. I refused to run ads because I couldn't track them out of newspapers and magazines.
Right.
Until we got internet, there was no tracking anything.
Right.
Even if you did run a magazine ad, the phone never rang. It still doesn't today, right? It doesn't ring. And so for me, that type of marketing is branding only. And I wasn't about branding and being number one in the eyes of the public. I was about being number one in the eyes of the client I was working with.
Yeah, that's powerful.
And all I cared about was making sure they were so well taken care of that they became a raving fan, and they would go out and tell others about me. And that's how I built the entire business from then, was just on that, all referral.
Well, sorry to cut you off. How often do you keep in touch with your database? So you have this database of clients that you're trying to turn into raving fans. How often are you touching base with them?
Okay, so I teach marketing and advertising to agents in Tucson, Arizona, and have for 15 years. And one of the things I teach is you have to be in all the different places where your clients are right now. And so we do a touch base with them every month in the mail. We send out a newsletter. It's a really fun, easygoing newsletter. Very little about real estate, more about us and what we're doing in life, and fun things they should know about things in Tucson. And it's just an informational, fun newsletter. We do that in snail mail. We give them a really beautiful program every month by email that helps them track and analyze their loan and their house value and how to pay it off early and how to refi and all that fun stuff. Top 100, we actually have this really cool magazine we send out to our top 100, 120 people called American Lifestyle. You guys should know about.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's awesome.
Heard of that magazine?
They love that magazine.
All right, Tony Ray, you're officially our best guest ever. No.
And then I make sure that we hit them with text messaging, because I know they're on text.
Yep.
I make sure they see us on Facebook and it's for social media. And then they get a phone call. So I like to talk to everybody by phone once a year. And now, mind you, I have 800 people in the database in the CRM.
Okay.
I look at the top people that are constantly raising their hand, and that means referring us business, calling us, asking us for advice on where to get a good steak or whatever it is. There's about a top 100 in everybody's database that does that.
Yep.
So you have to pay extra close attention to who those folks are. So we make sure that they hear from us on a phone call. And then the phone call is usually an invitation to get a couple hundred of them to our house for a party every year. So we throw a big block party and we have a blast. And
wow.
But they see us in every place they are. So whether it's social media or in their mailbox, whatever it is, whatever device they're using, I want to be there with them.
Okay. So it's really,
so
really
it's very
focused. Yeah, it's very focused marketing on that database of people. You know, I heard an interesting study that I guess Tom Ferry and Boomtown did where they researched basically top producers, and there was a direct correlation between the volume someone did in sales and the amount they had in their database. And what was wild was that people who had 100,000 people in their database, and not just, you can buy a list of 100,000. So if you're listening to this, it's not about buying a list. It's like a real database of people that you have some type of form of relationship with, even if it's they opted into your email list. 100,000, they were doing like 144 million in sales volume average. And then 10,000 was like the next level. It was really, really intriguing. And it shows you that where is the money? The money is in how well you build that database and how you're able to get those people in that database. I always use that trifecta of know, like, and trust. And what I think is really interesting is you're hitting your database a lot. A newsletter, an educational piece, the magazine for your top 100, texting, a phone call, a block party. You are hitting them a lot. And that is like proactive marketing to them. And then you're probably doing some other stuff where you want them to see you on social. You want them, so you're doing stuff on your social media. You're doing some more passive stuff that is branding in the hearts and minds of those 800 people that you follow them everywhere they go. Have you seen one of those be like the more effective route for you from the perspective of like when you're doing the follow-up calls, like how are you doing those? When you're doing a text message, what does that text message look like? Could you give us some more details there to trigger some ideas for the people listening?
Yeah. Text messaging, what we do is we'll do a Wednesday happy hour.
Okay.
And I found it to be very successful on Tuesday at 5 o'clock to 7. I will send out 50 text messages. I'll pick 50 people, send out 50 texts, and say, hey, if you're available, join us for happy hour tomorrow at this hotel. And what we'll do is invite them. We typically have 45 to 50 show up anytime we do that.
Oh, my gosh.
It's crazy,
That's
right?
nuts.
And we don't buy liquor because there's a responsibility legal issue there. So What we do is we buy a whole bunch of appetizers from the hotel. And then all of the people show up, buy drinks, and we all sit in the lobby of the hotel, and then one of those swanky areas that are pretty fun. And we hang out and we just see each other and talk to each other and have a good time. And the really cool thing is at the end of that party, I don't have to clean up or do anything but walk out that door with my friends. And so it's one of the quickest, easiest, inexpensive parties you'll ever throw.
That is awesome. That is a great idea. Wednesday
I
happy
do text
hour.
messaging also for just I'm thinking of you. So, Luke, if I'm driving down the road and your name pops in my head for any reason, you're going to get a text message say, dude, I was just thinking about you. Hope everything's okay. Or call me when you get a chance, or I miss seeing you, or miss your face. I'm going to send you some funny little text because I feel like if the universe puts your name in my head, there's a reason. And so I follow that instinct and let people know I'm thinking about them.
Yeah, that's super powerful.
It's cool. Text messaging's free. I mean, you're already paid for the phone.
Yep, correct. And it's a 98% people open it, 98% rate of open, which is there's no other piece of marketing right now.
Can't get an email that'll do that.
There's you can't do that. So it's interesting. Yeah. I've always encouraged people. It's just so natural to text people on their birthdays, holidays, things like that. As their names pop into your mind, just go down. Just text a bunch of people thinking about you today. They don't even know you've texted 50 people. It's personal to them. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely great. And it's authentic, and I think that's a key to that is authenticity, because everybody's trying to mass blast their 8,000 people in their database with a text message by using some robot who sends it out, and all of us who receive it know exactly what it is.
Yep, you're exactly right. Yep.
But a Tony Ray message at some random time during the day that says, hey, your name just popped in my head. I was thinking about you. We
Hope
need
you're
to get
doing
together
well.
soon. Yeah. I mean, seriously, that is authentic. That's authentic, and they know it.
It's interesting. People are doing that to me on Instagram now. They're DMing me those type of personal messages on Instagram, and I'm opening them and I'm seeing them. And so Instagram's another form of being able to get in front of the people, make them feel good. And everybody likes to receive an Instagram message too. I want to go back to something you said that I thought was really, really important. You talked about everybody has in their database 100 people probably that I call them advocates. They refer you a bunch. And so the National Association of Realtors puts out that buyer's trend report and everything. And what they talk about is like the average person will refer you 1 to 2 times, but there's like 35, 37% of the people in your database that will refer you 3+ times, meaning they're advocates for you. And so my question to you is, one, when you look back on your history now, do you find that there is that subset that's really responsible for 80% of your business? Is it that 20% that is really driving 80% of your business? Has that played out to be true? And if so, what's the extra mile that you do time and energy wise for the 100? Because we had a guy on the podcast, Sean Carpenter, and he called it the bullseye. He narrowed it down to 20 people. 20 people are in your bullseye, and he said talk to one of those people a day all month long. And because there's 21 working days usually in a month, so every day call one of those bullseye people and just have a conversation with them. What's your thoughts on that?
Totally love that idea. The top 10 people in your life are going to be family, best friend. Those folks are in your really top 10. And the fact is we can only spend so much time with people. There's only so much time in the day. And so we will give the most of our time to spouses and children and our BFF. And that's that 10. So that 20 that he's talking about, I interpret as raving fans. They've gone from advocate to raving fans on my list. They've actually crossed over from one referral to that they're constantly referring. My CRM that I use actually would show me your name, and then it will show me everybody under your name that you've ever referred to me, and then it shows me everyone they've referred under their name. So it shows me your referral tree for me. So I can go back and say, because of Luke and the very first referral, I have had 92 sales all from you.
That's amazing.
Because I can see where that all goes. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. What CRM do you use, just so the audience can hear? What CRM?
I'm using the by referral only CRM, which is all focused on client retention.
That's awesome.
It lets you track all that cool stuff. But so I agree. There's a 20 that are your raving fans, and I agree. I don't call them every day. I love that idea. I guess I call them a lot though, because what happens is automatically we spend a lot of time together. They're the folks that are probably working with me on my favorite charity. I'm a member of the advisory board for Pet Partners Therapy Animals. They're the folks that are in my wine club. They're the folks that I go out to dinner more often with. They might be ones I call and, hey, I'm going down to the theater, go with me. So they're probably in that. That's who I'm going with, is that top 20.
Okay.
They've raised their hands in a way of saying, we're your fans, you're our fan, we want to be together. That's a natural thing that happens with people. So I agree with him completely that if everybody did that, just focused on who they were and paid a really good attention to that, it does grow your business twofold. It's just so easy to grow business that way. The 100, I pay very close attention to them, and in the same way to make sure that they're hearing and seeing us all the time. And a lot of times the 100, as they get in, they may be a new client who just purchased and they're settling in 60 days, they're kind of getting back into their routine, and all of a sudden they're starting to become a raving fan advocate. You'll see that happening. And of course, we're paying close attention to those guys as well.
And have you found, as you look at your sales over your history, that 100 really is what's driving the majority of your sales? The reason for my question is, I think what's really hard for a new agent, and even probably veteran agents, is it's hard to focus on 100 people because you feel like your net is not big enough. Right. And you feel like you want to spend your time trying to go after a bigger net instead of spending the energy on inviting those people to dinner and spending your money there. Like, instead of buying 1,000 postcards for a big net,
yes,
you take 5 of those people out to dinner. And I guess what I'm getting at is, is it worth it more to take those 5 people out to dinner than it is to spend on 1,000 postcards in your experience?
Absolutely, no doubt.
Okay.
Think about this. 1,000 postcards, 1% respond. They don't like, love, and trust you. They don't know who you are. One guy responds. He picks up the phone. Come over. I'm interviewing 10 other agents. I saw your postcard. Is that who you want to be dealing with? You want to go up with 9 other agents? That's not really any type of consulting or professional real estate to me. But I can take care of the top 100 and really focus on them. And I can do a $10 million business just off of that database. I can do 10 million. I can have an ROI that will exceed anybody else in business because I'm spending so little compared to the amount you have to spend for those other, chasing leads. And I get to also go on a month in Europe every year and my other 5 vacations.
I love your life. I'm going to design my life just like Tony Ray's.
It's absolutely you want to pay attention to your top 100. You'll get more. Think about it this way. I just hired 100 raving fan salespeople of the Tony Ray group.
Agree, man. That is a great way to think about it.
It's golden nugget. They're salespeople.
Yep.
And understand, too, I'm the same way. I have a financial planner, and an insurance agent. Anybody asks me a question about that subject, they're getting referred to them immediately because I believe so much in them and what they do for people.
That's
I'm
awesome.
their raving fan, and I'm a raving fan of a lot of folks. So I'm role modeling daily what I want people to do for me, which is to endorse wholeheartedly the service that I offer.
That's awesome.
So here's a question for you then, because I think it's the natural progression. If it is the database, which I 100% agree, like 1,000% agree to anybody who's listening to this, it is all about the database. It's all about relationships. That's what it's about. How have you built the database? So I'm a new agent that starts today. How do I build that 100? Where do I start in your mind? How do I get there to building that sphere?
So the first thing I did was I made a list of every single person I knew, and I also and that included all of the vendors and professional care people, personal care people, anybody that I worked with, that I spent money with. I looked at all of those on a list one by one, and then focused in on getting them into my database, which was every bit of information I could. Now, back then, there wasn't Facebook and all those fun things. So I had an address and a phone number, right?
Yeah, there wasn't even a lot of email addresses then either, was it?
I didn't have email. Then when email came to be, that was like this magic cool thing, right? And then so I went and called every single person. What's your email? A lot of them didn't have one, but I helped them get one if we needed.
That's awesome.
And so we've always compiled data. Right now, I have on my database, it actually shows me all of their different connections to social media. And it auto loads into the system any time their photo changes. It's in front of me when I'm looking at their database, when I'm looking at their card. Mm-hmm. So the really cool thing is I have everything now coming into the system, and I can track all of that. And I don't know, it's just it's a whole new world, but it's a beautiful world. You can get super distant with people because you're using technology the wrong way, or you can get super close to people by using it the right way.
Yeah. So let's go back to the beginning of this conversation, because you mentioned that you have a photo that you use for your business cards, everything really. You've got an iguana sitting on top of your head. So you said that photo that iguana changed your whole business. Tell us the story.
Okay.
I gotta hear this.
You have to think of me this way. This is kind of funny. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm a secret agent for the first several years, because the only people I work with are people that have been referred to me. There's no advertising with my name on it. You don't see my face anywhere. Back then, that I was secret agent. I went to Puerto Vallarta, and I wanted to touch the iguana thing. I thought it was cool. I'm an adventurer. That's what I like to do. And so this guy was walking across the beach, and I said, "Can I see that thing?" And he's like, "Yeah." So I went to touch it, and it ran across my arm, and it ran right up on my head. And luckily I had glasses on because its little nails were smacking into the glass. And it was on my head, and it was like this, right?
That's terrifying, man.
And yeah, it was super heavy, and my neck was weighing fast, and I'm doing jazz hands in the photo. I'm like, take a picture, because I can't see what's happening, but I've got these things in my eyes. And so the iguana photo went up on Facebook. Now I cropped it out and fit it on Facebook because there was some stuff in the background, like a lady walking across a beach. So I cropped her out and I put it on Facebook. And in 30 days, I got a phone call, and it was really funny because this lady says, I saw your picture on Facebook. You are not the typical realtor. I've looked at tons and tons of realtor photos in Tucson, and you're not that stuffy Thai guy trying to pose and be this person that you're not. I love your energy. I love the fact that you have an iguana on your head, and I think you're my guy. Can you help me find a house? And I said, well, absolutely, but I have to disclose to you, I'm one of the few realtors in this city who wears a tie every single day, which I did. And I was very proud of my very expensive tie collection. But in Tucson, it's hot and no one wears a tie.
Right.
And I wore a tie every day. And so I said, I do wear a tie. I'm one of the few. And if you still want to work with me, that'd be great. She says, well, don't wear a tie when you show me property. And I said, deal. Well, the weird thing is I got call after call after call, and the same energy I kept attracting really fun, adventurous, cool people like me. And so it just changed my whole business because the authenticity thing hit me in the head again. And I thought, I got to be me even more in my advertising and stop being a secret agent. So I released the photo on all my yard signs. I put it on the internet. I put it everywhere. And it just took off, and it became this personality for me where people see an easygoing guy that they can talk to. My sign calls were 0. When I put the iguana, my sign calls quadrupled that year. We actually sold.
That is wild.
Right? Wild, because people call me off the sign. They're like, well, this guy's pretty cool. They just call me. And it just changed persona for me. And by the way, I don't wear a tie anymore. I stopped.
There was a happy ending to that story.
I always dress up nicely. I do respect that part of my business, that I want to dress properly, but I do not wear a tie. So I have a good collection I need to give away.
That's awesome. I mean, that speaks to being authentic. That speaks of your tribe is your vibe creates your tribe. You know, bringing people to you that you naturally connect with. It's just, dude, it makes doing business so much easier when you get to do it with people that you relate to and enjoy.
Yeah, it really does.
So I have to tell you, you can do it with websites. It's amazing what you can do with websites on that level.
How so? Like, what are some things you've done with your sites?
So unknowingly, I started building the first website because I am a nerd and a geek, and I like to play with any toy that comes out, electronics or anything. And so I thought I can learn to do this myself. And so I got a book and I started writing HTML code. And when the internet launched, I was one of the very first websites up and running. And my whole goal with the website was to tell people what I loved about Tucson, Arizona, and why they should at least give us a shot. Okay. Yeah. And so I started writing in my own words, conversational language, to single person, what I loved about Tucson, what they needed to know, and I offered a free relocation package saying, here's more information, I'll send it to you, priority mail, I'll send you everything about Tucson.
That's awesome.
It worked like a charm. The first call was, hey, this is Joe and Susie coming from New York, and we're going to be out there next week. We're wondering if you have any time to work with us, and we'd love to meet with you. And I'm on the phone with this guy, and I'm looking at my assistant, and I'm like, Joe and Susie. And I'm trying to get her to look up who Joe and Susie are, because they're talking to me like we're best friends. Right. And I realized that I've never met them, never spoke to them, but because they read all the pages of my website, they feel like they're my best friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we now do about 5 million in just volume from websites, just from that relocation package offer. And every single person that sees that website, they pick up the phone and call me.
That's
just
amazing.
Like,
well, it really,
the contact is great.
It's really, I mean, it's the balance. I mean, like starting off, obviously relationships and that connection are so important, meeting with people in person, calling, texting, but not being afraid to go jump into the digital stuff also as a way to bring your personality bring a level of interest to you so that then you can, I mean, it's just a door to the relationship is all that it is. So Tony Ray, walk us through, because we like asking every guest this question. And it sounds like you've got a pretty good, I mean, you've got your goals laid out. You know what you're doing every day, how many days of vacation you've got and everything. What are some things that you do every single day, 2 or 3 things that are in your routine that you feel are really driving your success?
Routine. I actually do affirmations, which is awesome. I talk to myself. I remind myself. Yeah, right. I remind myself that I am thankful for everything I have and I've created, and all the things around me are part of what I have created and done. And I remind myself to be thankful to me, because it's easy to beat yourself up sometimes. So I make sure I thank myself every day and try to make sure I don't do it enough, but thank all the people around me. And you can never do that enough. I do like to make sure that our team meets every day for lunch and we eat lunch together.
Oh, wow.
And so we sit around a table and we talk about family and life and what's going on, because it's a connection and it helps all of us be closer and have a good work day. And I'm very focused every day on what do we need to do to improve systems, to be more efficient, so I have more time to be with my clients and still not give up my free time for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm constantly always looking to improve. And I'm working on a big system right now, even as we speak. I'm never, ever I'm never settling, because my ultimate goal is always high revenue with low expenses, because that allows me not to have to work so much.
Yeah. Well,
I don't
never
need
settling.
to do that.
Just never settling, never letting off the gas pedal. So tell us, we also asked this question. If you could go back and tell little Tony Ray, younger Tony Ray, anything, 25 years of experience, you've been through this business, what would you go back and tell yourself back then?
Don't care what they think. Man, I cared. I cared when I was brand new in the business. I was getting beat up really hard because I looked like I was 16. I grew a mustache, a big cattlepillar mustache, to try to look older.
Luke's trying to grow a
I'm
mustache.
trying to. It's not happening very well. I'm trying to.
Dude, mine was so bad. It was like pale white skin and this big black mustache.
I want the handlebars.
Oh, it was awful. I cared too much what people thought, and I didn't learn that till later in business. That was that authenticity thing that I just needed to stop caring what people thought and let the people who don't like me go away, let them just pass by, and let the people who do like me get in the door.
Yeah.
And it really, that websites and all that stuff shifted for me, because I could attract people. In the middle of the night, 2 people come to the website. One says, this guy's a quack, and he leaves. And the other one goes, I love that guy. So I get the right one, right? Because I stopped caring what people thought, and I started putting the iguana up, and I started just being me, and I just really got into authenticity. And I think that's little Tony Ray needed to know that a long time ago.
Can you send us a picture of that little Tony Ray with that mustache? We'll put that up next to the iguana photo.
Yeah.
We'll get that.
You know what? My video guy has that on his freaking phone. It drives me crazy.
That's awesome, man. Tony Ray, thank you so much for being here. This was such a cool interview. We really appreciate it. Before we close, let people know where they can connect with you.
So I have a couple websites. See Tucson Homes, which is SEE-TucsonHomes.com is my real estate website. And then I just put up all of my classes. So I teach for the Association of Realtors. I just put up Tony Ray's Marketing on a Dime class, and it's all about all the inexpensive guerrilla warfare marketing things I do in business that cost very little money, that are super effective. And what I've been doing is every time I teach a class, I have 4 video cameras on me, and I let them film the entire class. So there's 9 hours on the website right now, and I've got another 6 hours coming up this year for them, and it's completely free. And my information's on there as well, so they can watch those classes on marketing.
That is so cool, man.
For sharing that. Yeah, we'll definitely include links to that in the show notes as well, which you can find. Thanks again, Tony Ray, and thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard today here on Stay Paid, please head on over to iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, all the podcast apps. Give us a 5-star rating. Make sure you leave a comment. Make sure you leave a comment about Tony Ray. Tell him what you thought of the of his iguana picture. You can also find our podcast, including this one in video, at staypaidpodcast.com. And please do us a favor, share the podcast with someone else today. It really helps us spread the word. You can get hold of me or Luke at podcast@remindermedia.com or on Instagram at staypaidpodcast. No.com.
Yes, no.com. Just the handle at Stay Paid Podcast.
For this episode of Stay Paid, I am Joshua Stike.
Yes, and I'm Luke Acree. And the action item for this is we just learned from someone who's been a warrior in this for 25 years, has made it in this industry year after year, and gets to take, what'd you say, 6 vacations at least a year?
6 weeks.
Yeah, it's crazy. Our 6 weeks of vacation. Here's the action item for you. I truly believe if you want to live the good life, you got to live the life on referrals. You have to. It's about the relationships that generate referrals and repeat business. That's the key. And so how do you do that? Well, here's your action item. Print off your database today and go down and mark your top 100 people. If you don't know who those people are in your mind, then you're missing out. You're missing out on opportunity. And start marking those people and then ask yourself, how many times a year am I contacting these people? How much value am I giving these people in their lives? Because that value will trigger the reciprocity where they want to give you referrals, where they become not just an advocate, as Tony Ray says, but a raving fan. So that's your action item, is take your database, find those 100 people that are going to give you those referrals, and start asking yourself, how often do I contact them? Because a relationship doesn't happen just one time. You got to connect with people consistently to build a relationship and get those referrals and repeat transactions. Remember, the difference between a top producer and a mediocre producer in any industry is top producers take action. So take action on that today.